It's on me. All right, I believe we're getting ready to start. So I would start with some comments and some dialogue. So I start off by saying good evening to everyone. Thank you for coming. Muy buenas noches a todos. Gracias por estar presente hoy día. I believe an announcement was made that if anybody is Spanish speaking only and they would like translation service, to please acknowledge. Si no me equivoco, se le pidió que si hay alguien que solamente habla español y necesita un audífono para que escuchar en inglés, en español, por favor diga ahora. ¿Alguien? No? Okay, muy bien. Thank you. So today is with great pleasure and excitement that I present to you the city's recommendations on the use of the American Rescue Plan Act funding and to seek your input, to say the least. Afterwards, our administration will present a PowerPoint presentation with recommendations followed by a breakout sessions led by facilitators to each table. This will be your turn to let us know what you think of the recommendations and an opportunity to add anything else you feel is important to the city of Reading. Before we do that, though, let me explain something. You may see that I'm not clean-shaven and might look a little scruffy. Well, there's a good reason for that. Many of them in the city of Reading, in City Hall, have decided to participate in the No Shave November to support, yeah. We're doing that to raise money and awareness for breast cancer. Even though October was officially Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we have chosen to continue raising awareness throughout the month of November. Of course, this is of great importance to me personally. As many of you know, I have been impacted in my home, as my wife is a fighter and a cancer survivor. So tonight, the city of Reading is presenting to you a list of recommendations on how we plan to use the $61 million in funding from the American Rescue Plan Act, otherwise known as ARPA. You will notice tonight that we are putting forward about $40 million in recommended projects that will make the city of Reading an even better place to live, work, learn, and raise a family. Please know that this is not, again, this is not the final list. In June, the city received the first half of its allotment, with the second portion of the funding coming to us no later than March of next year. These federal dollars come directly from the Biden administration and a direct result of the devastating effect of COVID. I don't have to explain to anyone what COVID has done to our communities, especially here in Reading. We not only lost loved ones, but we also, many of us have lost our jobs, their jobs, income, and the ability to care for their families due to the pandemic. Let's face it, we're all tired and ready to move on, but we can't, not yet. We're not there yet. Our administration looks to keep everyone safe and must do our part as a unity. If you are not already vaccinated, I plead with you to please do so. Again, this is my personal plea. Look for our website for vaccination opportunity as we update them regularly. Do it for yourself, do it for your family, and do it for the entire community. Nothing in a city can replace a personal responsibility, and none of these recommendations or funds can replace people either. When I became mayor, I wrote 4 fundamental pillars: safe streets and safe neighborhoods, education and workforce development, community and economic development, and of course, responsible leadership. The list of recommendations supports those pillars, as you will see tonight. These funds will allow us to fix our neighborhoods, which include streets, sidewalk, parks, and playgrounds. I've said on many occasions that Reading will be using these funds wisely. This one-time infusion of funding from the federal government will leave a long-lasting impact on our communities for generations to come. As I said earlier, these funds are not only for physical improvement, but social ones as well. We have a responsibility to provide services to everyone, including the least fortunate in our city who have been severely impacted by COVID. Now, I will share with you roughly $40 million of the $61 million that have been committed with room for input, which we'll be seeking some of it tonight. For starters, I am very pleased to announce $5.5 million to house displaced residents and assist our homeless population. This Special American Rescue Plan funding has been made available through our home program in our Community Development Department. It will provide a significant material impact on the quality of life of homeowners and renters in distress. Before the end of this year, I will announce the formation of a task force that would include members of our administration, members of council, social services agencies, and other stakeholders who will work on a daily basis to lift others out of poverty. Breathing new life into our neighborhoods, it is also a top priority. For that reason, our administration is recommending $3 million to fight blight and to rehab properties that can be saved. For those that are beyond repair, we will use funding for demolition and removal. In addition, we are also recommending $2 million for a sidewalk repair program that would allow homeowners and shopkeepers to apply to fix those areas, leading to their homes or businesses. In late September, I had a very productive meeting with members of City Council, some who are here today, and I'd like to recognize City Councilwoman Donna Reed and Marshall Goodman Harnship. Thank you for your presence. We discussed our priorities and our administration top goals. During our priority summit, we discussed the need to fully collaborate on effective crime prevention and reduction. For this reason, I am pleased to announce the creation of a neighborhood initiative program that would employ a community liaison. This city employee would not only collect information on assisting community resources, but would also work with neighborhood organizations. These initiatives will assist in the creation of a block association and captains, and to help organizations build their capacity while leveraging other community resources. The program, which is paid by the American Rescue Plan Act, is for 3 years. However, after its success, our administration will take the lead to find additional resources to keep it intact. Our administration is also committing $4 million for a residential facade program for single-family homes, along with $2 million for a matching commercial facade program. We are also dedicating $3 million for community-based organizations that provide opportunities in the arts, culture, and music for a diverse community. Another funding priority is setting aside $3 million to address issues with our dams. This much-needed effort will not only stabilize our dams, but also ensure that the public's property is protected and that their safety is properly preserved. This effort will require partnering with our neighboring municipalities to maximize input and additional funding. I am also pleased to announce $3.8 million for city parks upgrades that will replace our aging playground equipment that includes swings, sliding boards, and safety paddings, while repaving our basketball courts and replacing hoops to breathe new life into our city's most popular sport. We will also invest in fixing our fields for baseball and soccer, which are also very popular in Reading. This funding also sets aside $2 million for much-needed repairs at Recreation Commission facilities that serves our youth and their families. Lastly, I am asking for funding for an all-abilities park. Now, you all know how that important it is to me as well. That will give every child with a disability an opportunity to play in a safe and welcoming environment. Part of that funding would also be dedicated for dog owners. Their pets will be free to roam, stretch, roll over, and interact with other dogs. Both of these initiatives will come from a $1 million effort that will help improve the quality of life for everyone in our city. I want to stress that we will continue doing the most with your city resources, that we will pursue making improvements whenever necessary. I told my entire staff that we will only get one shot at making these sweeping changes. We're not in a hurry to, as we need to commit the funds by 2024 and spend them fully by 2026. I also told them that we are to spend every single nickel. We're not going to let a penny go to waste, but we have to do it wisely. That's why we looked at 12 proposals from accounting firms that will help us navigate through all of the requirements. The U.S. Department of Treasury is expected to have its final regulations in place very soon, and we will follow those guidelines to a T. Our team has narrowed down the 12 proposals to 3 top choices, and we will provide a final recommendation to council later this month. I also want to thank members of the council once again for their interest in our recommendation, and will have an opportunity to seek more input from them as they will provide the final stamp of approval for the city to move forward. Lastly, if you don't see your organization mentioned in the PowerPoint presentation later today, it's not that we haven't received it. Our team has met internally on 9 occasions and continue receiving proposals on a daily basis. In fact, in the last week, 2 weeks alone, we've heard from iLeague, the Latino Chamber of Commerce, Berks Nature, and the Reading Science Center. Each of these proposals will receive the attention we've given to everyone else, to say the least. In conclusion, I want to thank you for being present, and I also like to give a special thanks to our gracious host here in Centro Hispano, especially to Mr. Mike Toledo and his staff. Please. For opening the door for us. As your mayor, I will continue creating that synergy that I talk about so often to make Reading the best place to work, live, play, learn, and raise a family. So thank you once again in advance for your participation today. I look forward to a very fruitful conversation and input from you all. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. Muy buenas noches. Oh, come on, we can do better than that. Muy buenas noches. Good evening, everyone. Wow. My name is Abe Amoros. I am the managing director for the city of Reading. Yo me llamo Abraham Amoros, el director gerente de la ciudad de Reading. Estoy aquí con mucho orgullo, mucho placer. So thank you all for coming. What a great turnout tonight. Thank you all for being here. This is an important conversation. These are your dollars. These are your projects. These are your priorities. This is why we want to have a sit down with you to get a sense of what you think of our recommendations, but also to add anything you like as well. So before I do that, I want to recognize the fabulous staff at City Hall, especially those who are part of this internal working group. I want to recognize Chief William Stout, our fire chief. Yes, you can clap for each one. Jamal Abodalo, our Director of Community Development. Our Director of Finance, Jamar Kelly. Our Acting Public Works Director, Stan Rugas. I also want to recognize our city auditor. Is Maria Rodriguez here? She's been part of the working group as well. She's been terrific to work with. And of course, the best communications coordinator in the state of Pennsylvania, Christian Crespo. So tonight we're going to go through, oh, and Bill Murray from Rawa is here as well. Bill, welcome. So tonight we're going to start with our PowerPoint presentation. As you can see, the mayor alluded to the Biden administration setting aside billions of dollars to help communities such as Reading. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through the key provisions, so we can go to the next slide. The purpose of these funds, really, is to create relief. And on March 10th, 2021, the U.S. House of Representatives passed the Senate amended H.R. 1319, also known as ARPA, which provides $1.9 trillion in additional relief to respond to the novel coronavirus, and also includes provisions to aid state and local governments, hard-hit industries, and communities. Also providing tax changes affecting individuals, businesses, and other provisions. And this latest COVID relief legislation also includes provisions impacting a wide variety of stakeholders. So it's important that we recognize the Herculean effort that the federal government put forth. Okay, next slide. Obviously, we're going to use this for rental and housing assistance, economic stabilization for small businesses, individuals and families, healthcare, education, transportation, state and local governments. What's missing from the slide are nonprofits as well, and we're going to be able to also assist other organizations that demonstrate a need. In fact, at your tables, we have a rubric, and that is basically going to be a scoring guide on all of the proposals and projects that we get that demonstrate a public benefit. It's important that we recognize those two words, public benefit. If it doesn't have a community-minded aspect to it, we will not be able to consider it. And just a little bit in addition to what I mentioned earlier, obviously many of you received your stimulus checks that were part of this, which is also a big part of ARPA and what the federal government was trying to do. And of course, there were other support services that were funded. For instance, $10 billion was allotted for emergency housing, homelessness. The mayor alluded to that in his remarks for displaced residents and homeless folks within our community. $4.5 billion of that is going to go to low-income energy assistance. $15 billion is going to go for economic injury disaster loan program. $28.6 billion is going to go to the Small Business Administration to administer restaurant revitalization funding, which is really important. And $1.7 billion for something you may have heard of in the past. It's called rail funding. Rail funding, which is going to become a reality here in Reading very soon. Okay, next slide. As the mayor alluded to in his comments, the city of Reading is going to receive a total of $61,134,970. I've committed that beautiful number to memory, believe me. It's a great number. We received our first tranche, which is a fancy French word for allocation, back in June. And I remember how excited Jamar was when we received that funding as well. The second tranche will be deposited by the end of March of 2022, which is just around the corner. Now, it's important to note that the city has until the end of 2024 to commit these dollars, pending council approval, of course, and 2026 to spend that money. I want to be clear on something. We're not in any rush to push this through. We want to do it right the first time. This is generational funding. We get one bite at this apple. So it's important that we savor every morsel of that apple and make sure that it lasts a very long time. After all, we are fiscal stewards and we have a responsibility to you as residents. Okay, next. The internal group has met on actually 9 occasions now, and we continue to meet regularly to discuss this. I mentioned the rubric, which was finalized. You'll have copies of that made available to you. We've had Public Works, Finance, Fire Department, Community Development, and our library system also participating. We have not just external requests from the community, but also internal requests as well. For instance, the library asked for $150,000 to update its digital materials for children and seniors who are the heaviest users of the Reading Public Library system. The mayor has made it clear to me that he wants to go heavy on infrastructure, fixing our sidewalks, our streets, our playgrounds. Every municipality in Pennsylvania has challenges with its crumbling infrastructure. We're no different, but this allows us an opportunity to really invest in the improvements, which will have not just residential benefits, but economic benefits as well. Residents will be pleased that they have smoother streets and sidewalks, but business owners will also be excited about that as well. And of course, we can't forget our downtown. We cannot forget the heart of the city, which is our downtown as well, which so many people take an immense amount of pride in. Okay, next slide. Proposals went out early in September. 12 firms responded, which is terrific. And I have to say, we have a great problem on our hands because they all have great credentials, fabulous track records, and it's just going to be a nail-biter in terms of who we choose and put forth before council for final recommendation. The contract will be awarded at the end of this month, hopefully. It's going to be tasked with compliance, reporting, accounting, fraud mitigation. I want to be clear on something. We still have to be accountable for every penny that is spent up to 5 years after. Up to 5 years after. So we're going to retain those services, and in case you're guessing how this is going to be paid for, it can be paid for through ARPA funding as well. So it's not going to come out of the city's general fund. It's going to come directly from ARPA funding. Okay, next slide. So we've identified several categories. These are not all exclusive, by the way, it's just an example. Housing assistance, residential facade program, blight remediation, shelter and utility assistance, neighborhood initiatives, parks and recreation facility upgrades, because we all know how important that is for our families. Playground equipment, blacktop for basketball courts, all abilities park, dog park, stormwater management, dam remediation, fire and rescue services. Really excited about the 9th and Marion Street Station, folks, and I just want to make a plug that tomorrow at 11 a.m. we are going to break ground on that wonderful project. Fulfills a public benefit. And of course, apparatus replacements are also eligible for that because we need to provide the residents of the city of Reading with the very best in terms of equipment and services. I also want to make a plug for our neighborhood initiatives. The mayor mentioned this in his remarks. We want to revitalize neighborhoods and create jobs by developing high-impact projects, providing financial resources to entrepreneurs, and sustaining long-term community partnerships. This is also going to include combating youth violence, community building, creating those wonderful partnerships, neighborhood safety initiatives, a comprehensive community revitalization project, and green space. You know, we have a lot of assets here in this community that we don't tout highly enough. Green space is one of them. We have some wonderful parks here in this city, wonderful parks. Next slide. In terms of economic stabilization, we've already approved $3 million for the Santander Arena and the Performing Arts Center. Council approved that 2 months ago. They started their season. I believe that the Royals actually were on the ice on October the 23rd. And yes, and we've also approved $3 million to keep the Reading Phillies in Reading. Since they've been here since 1950 at that stadium, we want to keep them around. And that is pending what's called a RACB application from the state. I checked on that today. Looks like everything is on the right track, in the hopper, and I think we're going to have an answer on that very soon. We've also had requests from the Pennsylvania Americana region, which is the Visitors Bureau, and we're also going to put together a commercial facade matching program. I mentioned the Reading Phils, the Berks History Center, the Fire Museum also. Those are just examples of the requests, and by no means are these exhaustive. We have many more at the table. Next slide. We've already allocated $41 million. That includes, but is not limited to, and the mayor mentioned this in his remarks, it bears repeating, $5.5 million for displaced residents, $4 million for residential facade program, $3.8 million for parks and playgrounds, $3 million for arts, cultural, and music programs. That excites me to no end because of the number of requests that we've received on a daily basis in terms of arts, culture, and music. $3 million for the dam mitigation, which is a long time coming, and $3 million for blight removal because our neighborhoods deserve that. Next slide. The mayor also highlighted $2 million for sidewalks, $2 million for Recreation Commission upgrades, $1 million for Neighborhood Initiative Liaison, $1 million for Arnold Abilities Playground and Doggy Park, and we're not done. I want to emphasize that enough. Cannot emphasize it enough. We will continue to meet regularly, and the last slide is my contact information. By all means, feel free to reach out, send us an email, give us a call. We'll treat your proposal with the respect that it deserves. We are open and transparent in this process. This is the first public forum that we will be hosting. We were approached to add a third. We have a second one that's in the works right now, and we've been approached to have a third as well. So tonight what we're going to do is this, folks. We're going to break out into our tables. We have facilitators at each table. Your task is to comment on what we just presented. That's number one. Number two, to add anything you think is not listed here. Feel free to be creative, feel free to be open, feel free to be honest. Every facilitator has been asked to identify a spokesperson in the group who afterward can come up and share the discussions at their table as well. So, it is just a little bit after 6:35. Let's do this for 45 minutes. If we need longer, then we can accommodate another 15 minutes, so then we have at least 30 minutes for folks to share what their observations are. All right, any questions? Very good. Let's break into the groups. This is the right time to do it. Deliberate, be as honest as you can, and we'll be back. Yes? Oh. Before I do that, I want to have a special shout out to those who are watching at home as this is being live streamed and shown on BCTV, who are also wonderful partners. Thank you.